Hi, everyone. Today we're going to do the same kind of thing we did last week, which is start out with some washes and then let them dry. That was the thing I teased you with last week. This is the one I started today, and I didn't put it on a board, so it's warped. And I think we're going to do something like this. Hey, look, I'm getting it almost right. There we go. So that's the wash we're looking for. And then afterwards, we'll do the same kind of thing we did here by adding ink marks. We did something like this a while back, like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And here that is. This is vertical, so of course it's going to be different. And those are with Queen Anne's lace. And this is all ink. But these are just washes and then messing about. Okay? So that's what the plan is.
Sounds good. So we need ink?
No, you need a pen, but you don't need a pen today.
Okay.
Because you're going to want to let everything dry. I'm going to come back with the wash I did this afternoon and do the ink bit, the pen bit.
Okay.
Okay? So here we go. The other thing we might do is this kind of thing, which is also a wet on wet thing, done with a flat brush. I don't know whether you guys have flat brushes, square brushes.
Yes.
I mostly have rounds, and I know we have rounds at the community centers, so I didn't want to require anything. There we go. Okay, so here's a fresh piece of paper. So here's my trusty spray bottle.
Oh, a spray bottle.
Oh, you can also take a brush and do this. Did anyone look at the text short on not having your paper warp?
I did.
Because that's what I'm using. I'm using acrylic thing. So I'm hoping not to have warping.
Yeah, I found
It's
a
an
whiteboard.
experiment. It's still an experiment.
Yeah, I found a whiteboard because I didn't have any glass.
Yeah, whiteboard. That's good. The other thing that works is those flexible cutting boards.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the light just changed. All right, I'm starting out with ultramarine. I'm slobbering it about. Slobbering is one of my technical terms. And I'm almost out of ultramarine, and I've ordered some. And of course, it's not
essential.
It's not essential. They say paint is not essential. Come on.
And then is this just a demonstration part, or do you want us to be following along?
I would be happy if you're following along. If
Okay,
you're not, that's
this is
okay
our
too.
chance to follow along. Okay.
Or you don't have to. You can look at it, and now I'm taking some yellow and doing sort of an intermediate thing. I like things on an angle. I don't like things.
Boy, am I warped.
And of course that has turned all green. And now I'm going to do gamboge, which is my favorite yellow in the world. Gamboge.
No, you may.
Okay, I think the spray probably works better than what I'm doing.
Well,
I can spray bleach on here.
then we'll make some nice white blotches. And then down the bottom, finally, some green. And this is just straight, plain old hooker's green. Ooh, that's very green. And now, because I want to have white blotches for some of my flowers, I take a tissue while it's nice and wet. And I try not to be too even about this. One down here, and one up here, and another up here, and one here, and not be all the same size, and maybe a cloud going by. Okay. Could whoever has that radio on either turn it off or mute themselves?
Okay.
And I'm going to add some just little flicks of green because this is my grassy part, and these are going to get all fadey out anyway, but it's going to make a slightly different values of green as it dries. And I'm going to wipe this. And I'm going to let this dry. Go. There we go. So now we have this sort of blotchy kind of thing. And we can take a brush and some water. I should have gotten some clean water, but I didn't. Put it in one of my fabulous expensive mixing pans, which are, as my students know, jar tops. And put some color in it. Now I've got yellows and I've got greens and I've got blues, so I need some warm colors, some red. Yeah, if people have paintings that they are getting from somewhere, go get them and show it to us. We still want to see them. And I'm going to make a rose kind of thing too. This got too much water. You can tell how picky I am about my colors. I just dump them from one to the other. This is permanent rose with a lot of water. And this is cadmium red, also with a lot of water. And now I'm going to do this. Which gives me a suggestion of where my other flowers are going to be.
What are you doing? You're tapping that on your finger?
Yep, and it's splattering everywhere. Now I can take a brush and I can just sort of mess it about. And I kind of want to preserve some of my whites. So I'll tissue them out again, but not too much. There we go. And maybe I'll make some really big splatters. Maybe I won't. Because these are going to turn into my flowers. And having done that, I can now give my greens a chance to be more
Hello.
exact.
Steven,
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Not the don't call me again.
can you zoom in on your painting?
Can I zoom in on my painting? Let me see.
You're in the picture and your painting is in the picture, which makes it distorted. I'm using my mobile phone.
Oh, the other way. How's that?
Shows the screen.
It's a little better.
Now I've got to move this up. Can I move that back? Move that back, but then it's on a slant. Is it better on a slant, but further back, further zoomed, or not? Which is better?
That's okay, but yeah.
Oh, I just grabbed some blue and meant to grab some rose. So now let's put some blue everywhere. Wherever it's wet. The whole point of this
What are
is
you doing with your dots? I don't quite understand.
I'm seeing where they're wet, where I've got wetness,
Yeah?
and I'm adding another color to it
Ah,
so that it does a mix, so that I get sort of a purple.
So
And I'm just messing about.
You got those large splotches by taking areas where larger drops fell and just moving them around?
Just moving around and connecting them. You know, connect the dots. Let the painting, and we talked about this a little bit last week, let the painting give you a gift. Wherever you see something that looks like it could turn into a flower, or maybe it looks like something you don't like the way it looks, then turn it into a flower. I think I like this pink better. And what I like with the pink is just a little dot of blue at the bottom, which then will spread out, we hope.
Oh,
oh, well.
So now we've got a nice blotchy, semi-flowery looking thing. And I'm going to put some more grass. Because as I'm messing with these flowers, the other stuff's getting drier. So then I can go back and add more grassy things and leafy things. And if you notice, I'm not worrying about whether it connects to a flower. I'm just doing it.
Okay, we're just going here.
Yeah, this is not a
Huge
very
arc.
controlled thing.
What I'm trying to tell, is that mostly wet or mostly dry where you working?
Down the bottom, it's mostly dry. It's damp. Down here,
Okay.
these are wet. You can see how they shine. See where the shine is?
That's where you splash.
Yeah, that's where I splashed. Okay. I'm going to call this done. Clean that up. And now I'm going to do the grand curve thing of putting it in the oven and then taking it out of the oven. And it's a totally different painting. Isn't that amazing? This one doesn't have any pink. I didn't notice it didn't have any pink. Let me put some pink. Oh, that's a messy pink. That's a really bad pink. Oh, Chris has got me a white wine slurp today. Last time he got me a red wine slurp.
Oh, bless his heart.
I'm drinking iced tea and I keep stopping myself from putting my brushes in.
Yeah, that's especially true if I have a straw,
Ah,
because the straw makes me think it's a brush. And then I do the other thing too. I pick up my water. I pick up my water and put my mouth on the brush.
Or you pick the brush and put your mouth.
Well, I was going to do the ink thing here, but now I've got it all wet. But the point of this lesson is to sort of to let go of the idea that, okay, I'm going to paint this thing. It's to say, okay, I'm going to paint whatever the painting gives me. What I like on this one is I've got some nice little shapes where it was really wet. Okay. Now, is this dry enough? No, this isn't dry enough. Nothing is dry enough. Nothing is dry enough. This one is dry enough. And this is a more controlled one, but it's basically the same thing. I didn't do a background. I splurted the yellow and the pink, and then I added the grass the way I did on this one. And then I added 1 or 2 dots, and then I figured, okay, I'm finished with that. I'm gonna use that to demonstrate the inking bit. So I look on my thing and I say, okay, so here's a petal. Here's another petal. Here's a petal. And there's a thing.
Is that just a Sharpie?
Yeah, it's a Sharpie. I would prefer actually a narrower one, but I couldn't find it, so I'm using a Sharpie. If you get anything from my lessons, you get that you use what you've got and you go with what you find. And that the painting will teach you as much as I will, probably more. And they're not really very, very flowery. I mean, they're not flowers that you could recognize. Here, this one looks like it wants to go like this. They're just flowers.
Using a square brush to sort of get those.
Yeah, to get that. And that's, I remember I said, if anybody has a square brush, you might want to do this.
Is that the same painting?
Pardon?
Is that the same painting where you did the blues, the blue and the yellow and the green?
No, this is another, it's another one of these, you stick it in the oven and then it comes out as a painting kind of thing. See, this one looks sort of like this. But again, it's taking the gifts that the painting gives you.
What do you mean you stick it in the oven?
You remember painting show,
Blue,
cooking
right?
shows? You must have seen Julia Child or Graham Kerr or somebody like that. And they cook these wonderful things and they say, okay, so now you stick it in a 350-degree oven for an hour and a half, and then they take it right out of the oven in like 3 seconds. Because they've already put it in for an hour and a half, a previous one in for an hour and a half, and now they're pulling it out.
What temperature are you putting that in at?
Well,
Hair dryer is the same thing, right?
yeah, hairdryer is the same thing. But then that would make an awful lot of noise, and that would be very obnoxious on Zoom. So there we go.
So you
Now
don't
let's-
necessarily, you're not going to do all of them.
I'm not going to do all of them. I'm going to see if these are ovened enough. We'll come back to this. Here's the first one, which is almost dry. So here I have an interesting kind of flower here. Sort of an iris. And here's one of my white flowers.
Could you move your painting up a little bit? We're not seeing the whole thing. Thank
Better?
you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you guys have to tell me that, because I'm not looking at the monitor when I'm working, because I can't do both. I don't know what this is. This is a very funny flower. Oh, I know. It's going this way.
Ah,
Elin, is there a trick to making your grass look so good? I feel like mine looks kind of like a little kid did it.
The trick that I find is first to be very light. In other words, that you hardly touch the paper. And you start at the bottom and flick. This has not got enough paint. Here we go. So you just flick it. And because grass is fatter at the bottom, you're thinking about pulling up, not keeping your brush on the paper. Pulling up.
That makes sense. That's improving it. Thank you.
And that way, the stroke gets narrower toward the top. Is that? My leaves tend to look alike, don't they? Let's make this a different kind of leaf. Some of these are not actually dry. This is not actually dry. But actually, the marker seems to do all right, even though it's not dry. Here we go. These should have something, huh? Daisies. You could also do this with, with different color markers. They wouldn't have to be black. It's just, that's what I have. That looks better on the TV than it looks in person. Maybe because it's fuzzier. Now let's see what this last one that I did before. So this one is sort of messier. It doesn't have such great grass. Let's do some more grass. And last week I used the fan brush for the grass, and people said, "What if you don't have a fan brush?" So I'm staying away from it this week, and I'm using a fairly thick brush. It's a 12. That's something thinner than that. I told people about these brushes. These brushes were so cheap. I said, it must be because they have plastic handles. It's actually because they've got cheap handles, but they are not plastic. I can tell that because the number 6 is warped. Plastic doesn't warp, and the paint is coming off it. So it's that they've got cheap handles, but they're not plastic. Here, this is a, what? This is a 2. I like bigger brushes because they hold more water. Are you getting the flick idea about grass? There we go. Okay,
Yes, thanks.
good. So now I'm going to go and make my flowers more flowery, or more whatever this is. This mixed media thing. And see what gifts my painting gives me.
Elin, what color green did you use for your grass? My green is just looking very, I don't know, foresty.
This is a hooker's green.
Oh, which one?
Hookers.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I like it. It isn't too blue and it isn't too yellow because I can always add blue and yellow. Marilyn does beautiful things with phthalo green and phthalo blue, and I am not good with either one of them.
Okay.
And that's just, you know, people can do things with some colors and other colors don't like them. I mean, phthalo green doesn't like me. Ultramarine likes me. Hooker's green likes me. Gamboge loves me. I can do lots of stuff with Gamboge. And I add it to all kinds of things to make, you know, to make them more cheerful.
I'm interpreting your little dots as insects at this point.
Oh, good. Yes, that's good. That's a very
Firefly,
good idea.
ladybugs.
Yeah.
Put a big grasshopper in somewhere.
There we go. So, I haven't made use of my whites, have I? I was so careful to preserve them, and now I'm not using them. Oh, this one looks like a ghost with two red eyes. There we go. So, these are very good to do if you want to make a quick card for someone. If you're sending somebody something like a get well card. Who sends cards anymore?
E-cards.
E-cards, yeah. Take a picture of it, send it as an e-card. Let's make that one of these leaves. Here we go. I did one of these in preparation, and I didn't make flowers out of it. And I said, I like it just the way it is.
Yes.
And I think maybe I'll add some gold. If you looked at the tech short video, I did a sort of a Klimtian thing, and I think I'll do that with this too. So you have to decide. You know, you have to say, okay, so this does not look like it wants to be flowers. This looks like it wants to be something else. And so this one is something else. That one was something else. I wanted to do this because this, I think, is a pretty easy lesson, and you can get lots of paintings done in a very short time. So I did what, 3 or 4 paintings here, and then I have a something to show people. This is a droopy flower, and it's drooping pollen. There we go. Actually, it doesn't look bad as a painting, but I think the colors in real life are a little brighter.
Excuse me.
Still looks like a ghost.
It still looks like a ghost. This is the Casper flower. So that's a bunch of paintings, all using the same technique. Oh, this one could have more. Let's try and get this focused. There we go. And the thing we're going to do next week is going to be more controlled, harder, or at least I think harder. On the other hand, some people find it harder to let go of control. But I like getting gifts from my paintings. I think I want some more green. That's too small brush. So next week, I'm going to suggest that you come prepared with a sponge. This is just a broken up sponge. It was a bath sponge. And we're going to start on hydrangeas, which are making me crazy. I need a piece of paper. Here, use the back of that. We're going to do stuff like this.
Could you move it up a little bit, please? Thank you. Oh, that's interesting. That's all with the sponge.
That's all with the sponge. And then we'll let that dry, and I'll do the Graham Kerr thing. And then we'll add little hydrangea flowers.
Will any sponge do? Or
Yeah, really, any sponge does. At the center, I've got real nice silk, real sponges, but this is just a cellulose sponge that I got at the dollar store. So, and this is too wet. So this is sort of an intermediate thing. Ah, that's not going to work, is it? Well, it looks a little bit like it, but again.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit more controlled, but it's still accepting the gifts that the painting gives us.
Start out with a dry sponge or wet it out, wet it first.
Wet.
And then put it in the color.
Well, it's damp. I mean, it's not, I can't wring it out, but it's damp. The hard thing is not to make too many because it goes so fast. It's hard not to. I made one. Chris, would you hand me that painting? Yeah, I went crazy.
Oh,
It has 27 hydrangea flowers. That is way too many. And they are way too small, you know? So that's the problem with the sponge. It's so easy to make these round things with the sponge that you go crazy. And then you get lost. So I ended up, before I finished the painting, it was 8 hours because the after the sponge part gets long. The sponge part goes really fast.
yeah.
This one I like much better. It's only got 4.
Very nice.
Can we see what you're dipping your sponge into?
I'm dipping my sponge, because my sponge is wet, I can dip
Yeah.
it right into my palette.
Oh, okay.
And then I put the paint on the paper.
So you're
See?
just, ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, well, that one's just the ultramarine. This one is mixed permanent rose and ultramarine, as is this, and this is the permanent rose, the top one.
Oh,
But this is the lightest part. So once I decide where my light is coming from, and I guess my light wants to be coming from here, so this part has to be sort of wiped out. Yeah. Because this one, the light is coming from the other side.
Okay, to wipe that out, did you add water or did you use a dry brush?
I added water and then I'm going to use a dry brush. because it had dried.
Mm.
So here we go. I think this is a dirty dry brush. Come on.
It looks like fog.
Yes, it does look like fun. But again, it's letting the painting tell you where the light, I'm letting the painting tell me where the light is. That's not working. And also my water is now quite green.
I was gonna say, you need a little green leaf, right?
Yeah, I can put a green leaf there, but I want to have this be the lightest part of the hydrangea because these two are both, that's where the light part is there.
Mm.
But this one, the light part is here. Now you can't have the light coming from both directions at once. So yeah, I'll make a leaf there. What do I have here? I've got some greeny things. There. There we go.
Mhm.
To cover up the to cover up the mistake.
It's not a mistake, it's creative.
That's right. It's the gift of the painting.
Mhm.
Plus, it's just paper.
And besides, it's just paper. And not only that, it's just paper that's already been used.
Night, Nora.
See you next week.
See you next Rinska.
Thanks again.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
And new people come back. Old people come back too. Everyone come back.
Thanks, Ellen. Thank you.
Take care. Have a great week. Check the website.
Pardon?
I'm getting better with the videos.
Ah.
Okay, end it.
End it.
Oh, we're supposed to do something like leave.